Thank you and welcome to everybody to the Property Subcommittee on Monday the 13th of June 2022. I'd like to welcome all members to the first Property Subcommittee of this new term and ask if there's any apologies.
Apologies from Councillor Angus Forbes, Councillor John Duff substituting. Thank you.
Do we have any declarations of interest on any items on the agenda today? Thank you. Can we agree the minute of the meeting of the Property Subcommittee of the 16th of March 2022?
Agreed.
Thank you. So the one substantive paper is the Learning Estate Programme. It's a progress report, and I'll ask Greg Bowen to introduce the report, and then will be time for questions on each of the items involved within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener, and good morning, Committee. So the paper you have in front of you today is an update on the capital projects within the learning estate of the Council's learning estate capital projects. So my intentions are just to run through some of the highlights within the report, and with the agreement of the committee, I will do a wee run through of each of the appendices and stop and take questions on each specific project if there is any questions. So just running through the main report within 5.2, we're aware of the challenges that we face within the construction industry, the implications of Brexit, the COVID-19 pandemic, and also currently the war in Ukraine, which is causing a lot of issues regarding supply, tender prices and material prices, and that's been felt across the whole of the country. Moving on within the report, within the milestones, you'll see within 6.3, I'm pleased to announce that the completion of the nursery extension at Rattery Primary School is now complete and will become operational next Monday, the 20th of June. Within 6.4, you'll see since the last committee update that the Perth High School replacement school was approved through planning in March of this year. And finally, within the report in 6.5, the new school, which will replace both North Muirton Primary School and Balhousie Primary School, has been named Riverside Primary School following an intensive community engagement process, and on site where things are working well and it's going to plan. So at that point, then I'll move on to the appendices. I'll do a wee overview of on the projects, and then I will stop and take any questions if there is from the committee. So the new replacement Blagowie Recreational Centre, we've had a delay in the planning process, but that's anticipated to go to planning this August to the Planning and Placement Committee. We anticipate to be on site later this calendar year, but we are facing challenges to do with the marketplace and reaching financial close, which is obviously the signing of the contract with the contractor and the council. We've had to extend the stage 2 process, but we were working through that. So that's where we are with Blagowie Recreational Centre. So I will pause there. I should introduce my colleagues, Stephen Crawford, who is the Head of Property Services, and Brian Reid, who's the Project Manager. So I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Greg, can I just ask that the table looks slightly out of date now, plan dates for commencing various stages, and I know there's a variety of reasons for that. So I was wondering if it would be possible when we get the next update that we have the original plan date, the revised plan date as a different line, so we can then see if we are falling further behind or we're catching up or able to stick to what the new revised plan date would be.
Yes, Convener, I'd be more than happy to do that and share that at the next committee. Yes, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Got a question from Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Convener. and it's sort of in a similar vein to the point that you were making. It looks like we've got a 5-month delay in the project. Do we anticipate making up any of that 5 months and still completing the external works by June 2024, or do we envisage more delays as the process advances due to the Brexit and the supply chain issues, as well as construction labour availability? In which case, have we got a revised completion date at the moment?
Greg, do you want to take that?
Yes, thanks, convener. Thanks for the question, Councillor Barrett. Yes, there has been a delay, and we're obviously trying to progress the project as quick as possible. The summer 24 date is still our anticipated date for the completion, but maybe I'll pass over to Stephen Crawford, our Head of Property Services, just to maybe add a bit more information.
Thank you. I think there's 2 dates. Barrett, your question. I think there's the centre operational date, which would facilitate, and the completion of the external works, the demolition of the previous facility. So there's 2 dates there. Question: do we anticipate being able to recover programme time lost? I think at this moment, with all the challenges of the construction industry, I would say there's no little opportunity in accelerating. Certainly, getting on site. I think it's the tendency is the other way, with contractors having difficulty with supply chains once they get on site and delivering the building. I think one of the things, this will be one of the first passive house swimming pools in the UK, and that will prove the challenges that the main contractor and hub are aware of. I think our focus, well, my focus is on ensure that the contractor builds it correctly, and that might take anything slightly longer. Our collective focus at the moment is hopefully get to planning it for the end of the summer, and then get on site towards the end of the year with a financial close package. At the moment, getting fixed price tenders in from the market is very difficult. Discount steel price, for instance, has gone up in last year, and many times the main contractors are getting priced that this is the price, but it's got to be held for the next 14 days or 7 days or whatever. Even at the moment, getting a price for a brick, absolutely ridiculous. It's actually very difficult because a lot of cost of bricks is in firing bricks, and the gas price is so high. And again, if people are pricing things 6 months, 12 months, it's a bit difficult. So there's a lot of volatility, commercial volatility. What we're doing from a Perth perspective, obviously working with our supply chain, making sure the designs are correct, and making sure, in material pallets, where's the material coming from, what's the opportunity. A lot of stuff came from Ukraine, and that's the type of stuff that is causing all sorts of issues. So I can't give you an exact answer, but what I can say is we're working with contractors, consultants, and looking at where the potential trip hazards are in these types of projects. But your question started on when's the job finished. I think, as Greg said, we're really looking at the summer 24 for getting occupation to the facility, and I know that's later than originally planned, but that's just looking at what potentially could go.
Thanks, Stephen. Councillor Barrett, did that answer your question? And can I just check that you can actually hear the officer's replies?
Thanks very much, convener. Yeah, it did answer my question. To be honest, the transmission of the sound was pretty interrupted and intermittent, but I think we did get the gist of it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, convener. Greg, with the one of the main things about this project is it's shifting budget over time, and obviously we moved to the passive house design as well, which has obviously led to the council agreeing the increase in the budget for this. With all these difficulties and issues with stage 2, are we at any risk of actually coming out of the envelope that the council's already agreed for this project?
Yes, so Councillor McEwen, I can't give any firm commitments, but at this stage, the project team working with the contractor, we're hopeful it will stay within the current cost envelope as agreed by council. But until we get to the financial close, actually sign off, we won't be able to confirm that. But at this point, we hope to do it within the current budgets allocated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, convener, and thank you for the loan of your microphone. Councillor McEwen's question was one of my 3, but I did have another 2, if that's okay. The first of which is just in relation to the reference to the user reference groups, and there was scheduled to be one this month. The way the sentence is written, it looks like this meeting has already happened. Would that be correct? And if so, what was the outcome of it? Is it generally positive? Are there any concerns that we need to be aware of?
So Councillor Drysdale, we've got a communication which has been sent out to the user reference group. We've done a briefing round elected members. So there'll be communication going out. We try and keep your user reference group up to speed, but they will get communication following today's meeting.
Okay, thank you. So there's not actually a meeting; it's just correspondence at this stage.
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor Drysdale.
Thanks. And my second issue, just so that I can understand better the delay in the planning process. It's indicated that the main cause has been statutory consultee negotiations and approval, and just curious to know is what are the issues that are causing the delay in statutory consultations?
So Councillor Dale, I'll kick off and maybe Stephen come in at the back of me. One of the challenges we faced was working with Scottish Water and identifying a drainage solution as part of the planning submission. We've now dealt with that and agreed the solution. Stephen, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
That's correct. I mean, in more technical detail in Blairgowrie, we're building a bigger centre, and it put more obligation on the network, and so we've had to come up with an on-site solution. Once we'd worked that through with Scottish Water, so we've now that was a clear 3-4 month delay in going back to the design team and working through those details, and then making sure that then acceptable to Scottish Water. So that was a 3-4 month delay last year, and then this year I think we registered the application in January, and it's worked its way through, and we are hopeful that it will hit August planning date. But that's not on the critical path. The one is actually finishing the detailed design, getting right.
Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Thank you. My question related to a separate briefing note that was issued, and it talked about new complexities in the passive house design. Is this changes to the passive house that have taken place since we agreed to build it to passive house standards? Thank you.
Councillor Duff, I think that's just because it's, I think Stephen made a reference to earlier on, this is, I think it's only the second passive house swimming pool in Europe. So I think it's new to the contractors, to everybody involved in the technology. And it's just the challenges of pulling all that together to ensure we get accreditation for the passive house standards.
Certainly, Stephen.
If maybe just for committee's information, the process, we've got a design team. We've got obviously architects, engineers. We've also got a passive house consultant working with the design team and the main contractor. We're bringing forward design, but also that we develop the design and work through the practicalities of getting that on site. We then submit the design to the Passive House Institute, who then run a separate energy model in terms of, does this fit? Is this practical? Does it deliver passive house standard? So there's that iterative approach between our design team and the Passive House Institute, and ultimately we're in the final stages at the moment of saying, yes, that's the design, build it exactly like that. The Passive House Institute and our design team and the contractors, and it's linking up all the subcontractors, material suppliers, all this sort of, I think, historical wriggle room that we would have had in construction jobs. That's not there anymore because it's very specific, outcome focused design to achieve a very tight, energy efficient building. And this is a building in a swimming pool that's a 30-degree temperature, 24/7 for its 30, 40, 50-year life. So hence it's got to be absolutely right. So we're focusing on making sure we've got all that detail correct at the moment, getting the commercial package, and then getting that on site to be built correctly.
So obviously the aim is to try and get the reduction in the carbon emissions that we hoped to achieve by making it passive house. So is it looking as if we'll be able to achieve that?
That's on target, yes.
Thanks, Councillor Cuthbert.
Oh, sorry, it's not working properly. So it's a question of, do we have a plan for that disposal? Have we started the process already? Because there's nothing worse than having a building that becomes surplus after the new building's been occupied, and it sits 5, 10 years, rots, vandals, and so on. Just wondering, do we have a strategy in terms of disposing of the building and starting it now, if we know they're definitely going to be surplus? Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Cuthbert. So within this report, the reference you make, Balhousie Primary Schools, the only school within this that will be surplus. Education Trust Services have already declared the building surplus, which means then our estates team then take forward to internally look for any potential future use by the council, and if not, then it will be put to the marketplace for a sale. So yeah, that process is kicked off and moving forward.
Okay, thanks, Greg. And if there are no other questions on the Blairgowrie Recreation Centre, I don't see any coming up. We'll move on to the next. Greg.
Thank you, convener. So the next project within the report is the Perth Academy. Obviously, we're working through the 60 million allocated to the school. Obviously, it's a live environment, so we have to plan the project through different phases. So I'm pleased to confirm that phase 1 and phase 2 of refurbishment works are now complete. They consisted of CCT upgrades, lighting, ventilation, infrastructure, and refurbishment works. So these are now all complete. The next phase, which is phase 3, will commence this summer, which will see a further 10 classrooms being refurbished and also parts of the roof being replaced on site. We're also undertaking Wi-Fi upgrades and also other furniture improvements. So the next stage will commence this summer. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Greg. Do we have any questions on this part of the report? See Councillor Drysdale. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Convener. I had two questions. The first one is in relation to just can I get some clarity? You're saying that further classroom refurbishment will continue during term time. Obviously, that has the potential to be disruptive to learning, and I'm just anxious to understand how that is going to be achieved, and indeed how many classrooms are concerned in that part of the project. That's my first question, and I'll come back to my second one in a moment, if that's okay.
Yes, Councillor Drysdale. So the project team work very closely with the school and the management team to ensure effective communications within the site, and we don't go to site on the project unless that's agreed. We have quite an active parent council there also, so we also provide them with an update each parent council that takes place. So we're all working together to ensure the works can be done with minimal disruption for anybody concerned. And I was actually on site last week with the chief executive and head teacher, and I think things are going well on site.
Thank you. And my second question actually, and if you'll allow this, Convener, actually involves Academy and the grammar school projects together, because it relates to the approved general 6-year capital delivery programme that Council approved in February. The Academy project, according to what we have in front of us here, completes in June 2023, and the grammar school project is scheduled to be completed this summer, this August. So that being the case, I'm looking at the capital delivery programme, and I appreciate you may not have that in front of you, but the figures add up. But it has the expenditure profile continuing until 24-25, and I'm just trying to reconcile that in my head, why that is.
So, Councillor Drysdale, we haven't fully allocated the money because we're working through the projects, both at the Academy and at the grammar in phases. Basically, we agree the next phase with the contractor and the school. We obviously cost it up, so the money will go beyond those timelines. It's currently reported. There'll just be a new phase on both schools.
Councillor Drysdale.
Okay, so if I've understood what you're saying here, the phase 3 for the Academy refurbishment, which is scheduled to complete 12 months from now, that's not the end of the works. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I can confirm that's correct, Councillor Drysdale, yes.
Thanks. Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I think if we just go back to Councillor Drysdale's first question, I'm not entirely sure that it was answered. The report says that there's 10 classrooms going to be completed, the refurbishment of them during the summer holidays, which is great. And it then says further classroom refurbishment will continue during term time. Can you advise how many classrooms will be refurbished during term time, Greg? Or is it just one?
Councillor Barrett, I'm just going to ask Brian Reid, who's the project manager, just to come in with a bit more detail. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi there, thank you. Yes, as Greg said earlier, we're working very closely with the school to continue on these phases, and we always make sure that we plan accordingly. We're actually doing work during the summer. As part of the refurbishing these classrooms, we're creating 2 classroom spaces that will serve as the decant classrooms. What will happen is we'll be trying to do 2 classrooms at a time during term time, and we've identified 2 classes where the current scheduled subjects will be put into. We're continuing to work with the business manager. We have a project officer on the team who works with the business manager regularly, weekly meetings. We have monthly meetings with the head teacher. So the target is 2 during term time. Robertson, the contractor, have also been on site for quite a while as well, and they've built up a really good working relationship with the school. And the school are also, whilst we're saying 2 classrooms, the school may also identify that there's different spaces that maybe like to be upgraded as we move through the project. So again, we continue to look at the phases ahead, work out what the coming priorities are for the school, and then develop them that way in conjunction. But the target is, from a work stream point of view, it's 2 classrooms, so roughly about that 120 square metres of space or so forth that we can decant at a time.
Thanks very much for that.
Thank you. Thanks for that answer. Do we have any other questions on this item? No, thank you, Greg. We can move on.
Thank you, Convener. So the next one is we've kind of touched on Perth Grammar, which is also a live environment. We've now completed 4 phases of toilet refurbishments, and we commenced this summer on phase 1 of classroom refurbishments. So that will commence this summer. Happy to take any questions.
Don't see any questions on that. Councillor Drysdale's coming at the last minute.
Thank you. So can you just, so phase 1 will commence and complete this summer. What are the remaining phases and when will they be scheduled?
Councillor Drysdale, just to confirm, yep, they will complete this summer, and Brian will come in with a bit more detail beyond that.
Hi there. It's very, very similar to what we've just explained on the Academy project. So again, we're going through a similar phased process there. We actually have a meeting this week with the school and lots of property partners and design partners looking around, identifying the spaces to move forward in the future phases, to identify the decant spaces that could be used as well as we go through the process. So it's very much in planning the next phase for this. The Academy last year, we did a phase 1 through the summer. We're doing the second phase this summer, and then moving through. The Grammar's kind of a year behind with the classroom refurbishments, but how that's happening with where we are on that project process. So it's going to follow the exact same pattern. So the next committee will have a further update about what phase 2 is looking like for the classroom refurbishment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. We'll move on.
Thank you, Convener. So Perth High School, we've maybe touched on that a wee bit earlier on. So again, just to confirm that planning for the new Perth High School was approved in March of this year. We anticipate being on site later in the year, but we are facing the challenges of the marketplace, fertility of that, and achieving financial close, which again has caused a delay and extended period of stage 2. So the project team, the contractor are working full force to get to move the project forward. But similar to Blairgowrie, that's the position we are in, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks again, Greg. Greg, could you just give clarity on the SFT funding is 50% of the capital cost, but it comes back via revenue over 25 years. How does that actually work? What's the mechanism, please?
Yes, Convener. So we were successful with Perth High and with the new Riverside Primary School. So we're working with our partners at the Scottish Futures Trust on behalf of the Scottish Government. So we were successful in receiving 50% of the capital cost of both these projects. What it means is following the completion of the new Perth High School, the council will receive a revenue contribution over 25 years to the value of 50% of the capital cost.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Councillor Duff.
Thanks. I was just wondering if you were able to give a rough estimate of when you think the stage 2 agreement will be achieved. Not hold you to it, but just to give us your best estimate at this time.
Yes, Councillor Duff, we're hoping to, and my colleagues might come in with exact dates, but we hope to be on site before the end of the calendar year. So we'd hope to sign stage 2 about September, October, and financial close just after that, and then hopefully be on site by the end of the calendar year.
Thanks. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you. Again, two questions. One is just if you can possibly help me reconcile the figure in the narrative. The approved funding for this project is 68.7 million. But I'm looking at again at the capital delivery programme figures that council approved in February, and that has a figure at 54.87 million. Have I missed an update? And is it indeed 14 million more expensive than was set out in February? Yeah, if you can answer that one, please. Thanks.
Councillor Drysdale, yeah, I can confirm that the budget for the new Perth High School is 68.7. I'm happy to look at any other previous papers. Council did agree an increase in the budget for this when we agreed to move to a passive house solution, but I can confirm 100% that the council's budget for this project is 68.7 million.
Okay, thank you. And can you, and you may have answered this already, and I wasn't fully paying attention, I do apologise, but the delays that we have at the moment in which you've just set out in relation to stage 2, do we have a revised forecast date for the school being operational?
So, Councillor Drysdale, we don't, until we reach financial close, we will have a revised programme agreed with our contractor at that point, and I will be able to confirm what the programme is. At this point, we're anticipating round about late December 24, early 25 is a target completion date.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Barrett, please.
Thanks. I was just wondering if we could get a brief reminder of what the specified targets are that are associated with the Scottish Government or Scottish Futures Trust funding.
My colleagues might come in, Councillor Barrett, but some of the criteria that the Scottish Futures Trust expect the council to meet, which is energy targets, so looking for, I think it's, I won't get into technology, the detail in this, but the passive house, if we get that accreditation, that will meet with the energy expectations of the building. There's also to do with digital technology on site, and maintaining the school at a condition of B and above over that period of time to ensure the council gets full 50% funding.
That's fine, thanks.
Okay, thank you. There's no other questions on this topic. We'll move to the next one, please, Greg.
Thank you, Convener. So the next one we have within the appendix is the Rattery Primary School Nursery Extension. I'm pleased to confirm, as I mentioned earlier, that we have no issues with completing the project, and the new nursery will become operational next Monday, the 20th of June. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments on Rattery Primary School extension. Don't see any, Greg, so I think we'll move on.
Thank you, Convener. So moving on to the last project we have with.
Sorry, Greg. Councillor McEwen's just come through, so the chat must be acting a little bit slowly here. So, Councillor McEwen.
Yeah, I think if I used a cup and string from up the stairs here, it would come through quicker. Just to comment on the obligatory directors, during the election we've just had, it was very obvious on the doors that there's high demand for childcare in the Blairgowrie area. There are local private businesses now applying for expansion of their premises. So the extension of the Rattery with the 1140 hours extension as well is a much needed resource within the area to allow parents to get back to work after having children, so they can get the extra childcare that they need. So it's great to now see this project finally finished. So Greg, thanks to you and your team for finally getting this done. It was a contentious project at times, but now it's done and we can move forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor McEwen, and I will pass that on to Stephen, Brian and the rest of the team, so thank you for that. Okay, moving on to our last.
Sorry, Councillor Duff has now come through, Greg. You're not getting away that easily now.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, it was just to follow on from Councillor McEwen's comment. I think I'm right in saying this was probably the last in the series of ELC capital works to get the 1140 hours programme in place. The whole programme was very professionally handled, and we were, I think, well ahead of the game in comparison to some other local authorities, and it's good to see this one finished as well. So thanks very much to the team for all the work right through the whole of the capital programme to get ELC 1140 hours in place. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Duff, and I will also, Stephen, Brian, myself will pass on to the wider team, so thanks very much.
Thanks, Greg. I'll move quickly on here before somebody else comes in. So we'll go on to Riverside now. Okay, thank you, Convener. So we're on to the last project within the appendix, which is the new Riverside Primary School, which is obviously the replacement of Northmuirton Primary and Balhousie Primary School. As I touched on earlier, we had a community engagement exercise which named the new Riverside Primary School. The project is going well on site if you haven't been there, but it's all progressing well. We have the new head teacher appointed and we're working across the two sites in preparation of bringing the new school together in the summer term of 23. So happy to take any questions. Thanks. Thank you. We have a question from Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Convener. This is going extremely well, this project, and congrats to all involved. I just wonder how we have managed to stick to schedule almost exactly, or we're very little behind schedule, where other projects have not been so fortunate. Are there lessons that can be learned from the management of the Riverside project that can be used for future projects, or are we looking at different dynamics in each of the projects?
So Councillor Drysdale, what I would say, I think it's probably just about timing. I think we signed the financial close, which is obviously a key milestone, and then the contractor went to site. We obviously had the agreed budget at that time, and generally you find when we've got moved to site, then generally we stick to programme there or thereabouts. So I think it's really put it down to time, and I don't know if Stephen would want to add anything else, but I think we signed financial close at the right time, and the contractors delivering on site. I don't know if Stephen wants to add anything to that.
Thank you, Greg. I think you obviously are looking at that compared to Blairgowrie Rec and Perth High School. I would say this project is much more technically simple. And it's a quarter of the size of in floor area, the size of Perth High School, and it's not as technically as a leisure swimming pool. And again, as Greg alluded to, we were there was a major spike last summer. Things settled down again, and then come January, February this year, there was a major spike in activity and uncertainty, which has compounded things. We were also focused on this project. We're also, we've got Perth High School, and we're maintaining that, and we're maintaining Blair Rec. Part of our focus on getting Riverside going was the condition of Balhousie, which we're maintaining, but it was more critical there in terms of heating infrastructure. So that's why we focused this and got it on site, as quick as we could. But I think generally it's a much simpler build. It's a much simpler build.
Thank you, Stephen. Councillor Barrett, comment.
Thanks, convener. I really just wanted to thank the officers and the team involved in managing this project. It is, as others have said, very encouraging to see that it is progressing well and to see the steels rising from the ground. I pass the site every Sunday, and I'm always interested to see what progress has been made. And as I say, it's good to see that it's progressing on schedule and on budget. So good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions? Well, as that's the last item on the agenda, or on the one part of the agenda, call this meeting to a close. Thank you very much for your attendance.